Hi guys, this is Sujata and you're watching Grammaring, English Grammar for ESL students. In today's class, we are going to discuss about must, part 2. This is the continuation of the video must part 1. Must is used to talk about logical necessity. Must to talk about logical necessity. You can use must to make deductions. Must is used to make deductions. Must making deductions. Look at the example. He must be rich. His house is big. He must be rich. His house is big. It must be a difficult subject. Only 40% of students pass. It must be a difficult subject. Only 40% of students pass. Look at the first example. He must be rich. His house is big. Do you know he is rich? We don't know for a fact. You don't know that he has a big house. Big houses cost a lot of money. Therefore, he must be rich. You are sure that he is rich, otherwise he couldn't afford a big house. Look at these two sentences. He must be rich. Next, he is rich. What is the difference between he must be rich and he is rich? First sentence, he is rich. He is rich is a fact. You know he is rich. Maybe you are his accountant. You know about his financial situation. You know his financial status, and so you know he is rich. Or maybe he told you how much he has, how much wealth he has. However you know they are rich. So, he is rich is a fact. Look at this sentence. He must be rich. He must be rich is a deduction. Look at this sentence. He must be rich. Here we have used must. Here we have used must to make deduction. You don't actually know that he is rich. You know something else. You know that he has a big house. This makes you sure that he is rich. Let's look at another example for making deductions. It must be a difficult subject. Only 40% of students pass. Again, using must expresses deduction. If you say this, you haven't actually writing the exam. You don't know for yourself that it is difficult. However, and again, you do know something else about the exam. You know that only 40% of the candidates have passed in this exam. And this makes you sure that it is a difficult exam or it is a difficult subject. Look at this example. It must have rained yesterday. It must have rained yesterday. Did you see it rained? No, you didn't. But you are sure it rained. Probably you can see the ground is wet. You did not see or hear the rain, but you can make deduction from what you can see. So, for making deductions, we have used must. Making negatives using the modal verb must. Must is used to express obligation. The opposite would be mustn't. You can form a negative statement using the modal verb must by adding not with must. Here, must to express prohibition. The opposite would be must or have to. For expressing prohibition, you can use must or have to form a negative statement. And here, must to express strong advice. The opposite for must is shouldn't. Must, making deductions. The opposite for must or can't, couldn't, and maybe must not. For making deductions, in negative sentence, you can use can't, couldn't, or must not. Look at this example now. Passengers must place their bags above the seats. Here, we have used must to express obligation. What would be the opposite for this sentence? The opposite would be passengers must not place their bags above the seats. Passengers must not place their bags above the seats. In spoken English, you can say, you can't put your bags above the seat. You can't put your bags above the seat. Look at this example. You mustn't say anything to my mother. You mustn't say anything to my mother. Here, must expresses prohibition. The opposite is, you must say something to my mother. You must say something to my mother. Or, you have to say something to her or my mother. You have to say something to my mother. And next example, she must be awake. It's 2 in the afternoon. She must be awake. It's 2 in the afternoon. Here we have used must to make deduction. The opposite for this sentence could be, she can't be awake. She never gets up before the late afternoon. She can't be awake. She never gets up before the late afternoon. It's important to remember the opposite of must is not always the same. It can be different words. So, different meanings of must have different negatives. Different meanings of must have different negatives. What would be the past forms for must? Must for obligation. The past form is had to. To express an obligation in the past, you can use the word had to instead of must. Mustn't for prohibition, the past form is couldn't. If you want to use mustn't for prohibition to express the meaning of prohibition, you can use couldn't as the past form of must. Here, we have used must for strong advice or recommendation. The past form of must for strong advice or recommendation would be should have. Then finally, must for making deductions. The past for must for making deductions would be must have. Must have. Using must for past form, it is only possible when you make deductions. It is only in deduction you can use must for the past form also. Using must for past form, in all other cases you need to use different verb to talk about the past. You must be there at 10 o'clock tomorrow. This is an obligation. The past form for this statement is you had to be there at 10 o'clock yesterday. See, we have used had to instead of must. This is the present form of obligation and you had to be there at 10 o'clock yesterday would be the past form of this statement. Here, you mustn't smoke in the restaurant. You mustn't smoke in the restaurant. This expresses prohibition. The past form for this statement would be you couldn't smoke in the restaurant. You couldn't smoke in the restaurant. See, here we have used couldn't to express the past form of prohibition. You must try the soup. It is delicious. This is an advice. You are giving an advice to try the soup because the soup is delicious. The past form of this sentence would be you should have tried the soup. It was delicious. You should have tried the soup. It was delicious. We have used should have for the past form of must to express advice. And the last example, they must be on the hillside. I can't get through on the phone. They must be on the hillside. I can't get through on the phone. This expresses deduction. What is the past form of this would be? Look at this sentence. They must have been on the hillside. I couldn't get through on the phone. They must have been on the hillside. I couldn't get through on the phone. This lesson we have discussed about the modal verb must, the usage of the modal verb must. Hope this video is very useful for you. If you find this video very informative, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.